everyone, Sean Walbin with Secure Cyber Defense, and this is your bi-weekly video cyber update. Well, as we normally do, we start the show off with vulnerabilities, and today Cisco is the first up. Cisco has released multiple vulnerabilities, mainly for small business type devices like routers. I just recommend that if you're utilizing Cisco devices, one of the things that we're going to do for you after these shows is the blog of our website, which is www.securecyberdefense.com. There's a blog site that we will post all this to. If you go into resources, it's blog. And then the show notes will be there so that you can click on any of the links and any of those type of information, just so that you can get to the information a little bit faster. Next up is Carbon Black. Carbon Black is a VMware product. Carbon Black is a EDR endpoint type device. There is a specific vulnerability for Carbon Black. If you're currently utilizing that platform, please head out to the Carbon Black site and grab the update. I believe it's for a virtual appliance. Looks like a collector of some sort. Both Chrome and Apple have released updates. Chrome has released updates. Google has released updates for Chrome. Apple has released updates for almost all their products. And then there's also an Android update out there also. Android updates are a little tougher because the carriers tend to hold those back a little bit. So they all have to do a degree of testing, it appears, to make sure that their flavor of the Android operating system can take the security device. So just because we talk about an Android security issue on this show doesn't necessarily mean you can, like an Apple device, like you can just go to the updates and it'll be there. So just monitor your device, know on your phone where to go invoke the check for update button on your Android phone to just make sure that you're getting the most recent update, I guess is the best way to put that. And of course, a lot of our customers got information about a FortiOS vulnerability. The first thing I want to do is I want to clarify that what the FortiOS is, because I think there was a little bit of confusion about that. The FortiOS is the actual operating system on a FortiGate. So the FortiOS operating system has had a lot of vulnerabilities over the years, no different than any other device. Those vulnerabilities are detected, and generally very quickly a patch is released, we get the information out, we upgrade the devices, and we're good. The problem is, in this particular case, Fortinet had vulnerabilities in 2018, 2019, and 2020. What happens is, for whatever reason, either the information doesn't get communicated and whoever owns the device doesn't necessarily know that there is a vulnerability. So it's not something that, in Fortinet, and this is on their roadmap, by the way, but if you operate a Fortinet device, it's not like they make it known to you when you log in the next time to your Fortinet device that there's a vulnerability present for your device. They are working on getting that more prevalent inside the OS. In this case, a hacker has taken advantage of, they know that if enough time goes by, that you'll miss the updates or you forgot about it, and then they'll just start scanning the internet for vulnerable devices. That's pretty much what has happened now. So these aren't new vulnerabilities. These are older vulnerabilities that people that manage FortiGate devices didn't take advantage of and patch them. So they were just preying on devices that were not patched. So my message to you today is, obviously if you were a Secure Cyber Defense customer and we manage your FortiGates, you've already been communicated with and that's already been addressed. If you use Fortinet devices and you manage those FortiGates, is to pay attention, first of all, to the PSIRT site, PSIRT. If you just Google Fortinet PSIRT, PSIRT is the website where they post all of those vulnerability updates for FortiGate devices. So keep an eye on that. And then the second thing is to just keep an eye on the operating system and make sure you're not getting too far behind. I believe Fortinet is at version 7 now. I'm not advocating that you hop up to 7. I'm just saying inside the family, if you're in 6.2, then pay attention to the 6.2 updates. If you're in 6.4, pay attention to the 6.4 updates. And then monitor the PSIRT site. Use an aggregator like RSS is built into Outlook. Use something like Feedly. Do whatever you got to get in order to stay up to date on the devices. I think that may have been an accidental soapbox. So in the cybersecurity news, Facebook data has been compromised. This is not a new compromise. This was an old compromise from 2019 where 533 million records, global records, inside Facebook were compromised via a API feed that was being utilized by a research firm. Allegedly, Facebook had already taken care of this vulnerability. I'm not going to discuss that in great detail. The message that I'm going to bring to you today is, one, first of all, Secure Cyber Defense is putting on a webinar next week, and we'll put that in the show notes too, as well as the link. I'm going to show you guys how to secure Facebook and Twitter. Quite frankly, I'm tired of dealing with this where people get their Facebook accounts hacked all the time, and all you have to do is enable multi-factor authentication. I don't know why nobody wants to do it, so we're going to do a show, and I'm going to set up an account from fresh, and we're going to walk through all the controls, and I'm going to educate you on how to do this. So rule number one is enable multi-factor authentication. Rule number two is be aware of the information that you're sharing with these cloud providers. Instagram, Twitter, all these, LinkedIn, Facebook, all these companies have the ability to take your data and do something with it. And when you sign up for these accounts, you're effectively giving up that right. So just be aware of the accounts that you set up for. Be aware of what they do. Make sure that you know what they're doing with your information. Do basic things like freezing your credit and all those types of things. We're going into a time post-COVID right now where things like unemployment fraud is running rampant. Everybody's going to start submitting their taxes and find out that maybe somebody else did it already for you. Maybe not in a way that you wanted it done. So just be aware. Be cyber aware. It's right behind me. Second thing is about a North Korean APT team that set up a fake cybersecurity company targeting cybersecurity researchers and security personnel. This was a very interesting story. So a North Korean advanced persistent threat organization, remember APTs are like organized crime groups, and they're classified into APT. They actually have numbers associated with them. In this case, this was a North Korean group, set up a fake cybersecurity company, actually took out ads on LinkedIn and made it look very legit. And in order to get access to information about 0 days, those are vulnerabilities with software that's not yet necessarily been released yet, but somebody found it. And in unreported patch vulnerabilities, think about the Exchange issue, right, where we had the Hafnium group, which was taking advantage of a vulnerability in Microsoft Exchange. Well, nobody could figure out why they were seeing breaches 6 months before the vulnerability was even released to the public. Well, this. So something like this. I'm not saying this is the incident, but this is the model of that, right? So in this particular case, talking about Hafnium, the Exchange, what they ended up finding out potentially is that a legit cybersecurity company that had signed up and had access to early information may have inadvertently leaked it. But this also could have led to that. So this is just more of a news story to just let you know that this type of activity happens, and the hackers are getting very creative in order for them to get access to what they need access to. Some cybersecurity or some cyber criminals are utilizing some very interesting tactics of actually contacting your employees to let them know that your company has been compromised by ransomware and they're requesting a ransom be paid. So in order to help put on additional pressure, the hackers will compromise an organization with ransomware, and then they'll start emailing the individual employees that work at the company to let them know what's going on. In some cases, they're even asking for double ransom, where not only are they asking for ransom to get the files back, but they're asking for another ransom payment in order to not transmit the information that they received and put it out on the internet for everyone to see. A couple different things. Let me tell you one thing. First of all, if your data is encrypted and a hacker gets access to it, there should be no fear of them doing anything with it because they'll never be able to decrypt it. So knowing the information that you have and how it's secured will make a world of difference in how you respond. Number two, it was very interesting. The Broward County School District got one of the largest ransomware requests I've ever seen, $40 million for a public school system. But they're also a public school system that has a $4.5 billion budget. And in this case, the hackers found that out. So they did their research, they got the budget, which was publicly available, and said, hey, these guys got the money, $40 million a drop in the bucket. There's $2.5 million in their general fund, or $2.5 billion in their general fund. So 40 million. Anyway, it was an interesting story. Ransomware attacks increased 485% in 2020 compared to 2019. That's according to a threat landscape report on the internet. So ransomware is something, obviously that we talk about a lot. It's something that's in the news a lot. We're dealing with it every day. It's a primary function of what we do in preventing it and detecting it. So there'll be some more information on that soon in other episodes. All right, term of the week. What in the world is the dark web? The dark web is a unindexed area of the internet where a lot of very bad things occur. Number one, don't ever try and get on the dark web, ever. Don't Google it, don't watch YouTube videos, and don't ever do it. Don't do it from your house, don't do it, well, for crimity's sake, don't do it from work. So getting on the dark web is for professionals. There's nothing down there that you want to see. There's nothing to see on the dark web, except for all the credit card numbers that are compromised and illegal weapons and everything else that you could possibly imagine is there. So the dark web, it does exist. It's part of the internet. It's unindexed. You actually can't get to it from like Chrome and stuff like that. You have to have a very specific browser in order to get it. And if you ever end up getting on the dark web from your laptop, the next thing you should do is go burn your laptop. Because at that point it's fully compromised and anybody can have access to it. So that's what the dark web is. And Sean's soapbox. We're just getting more and more compromises with Office 365, and it seems like less and less attention of people paying attention to what's going on inside their O365 environment. This is not an option anymore, okay? It wasn't an option on previous episodes, and it's sure not one now. You have to enable multi-factor authentication. I don't know any other way to say this. You have to do it. You have to do it. I'll tell you the number one thing that we're hearing from people who don't do it, this is what they say. They said, the reason I didn't enable multi-factor authentication was because I was afraid it was going to inconvenience the users and I was going to get a flood of calls. If that's the reason, then that's not the reason. First of all, it's not going to do that. It's not going to prompt your users every time they use Outlook for some authentication code. That's not how it works. So do your research. Michael, we can put a link in the show notes. I know there's one out there on how to enable Office 365 MFA. It's a piece of cake. It's simple. The hardest thing that you'll have to do is just tell your users ahead of time that when they do log in, after you've turned it on and they log in, they're just going to get a short form that they have to fill out. They'll choose the way they want to authenticate, and then that's it. The only time that they'll get prompted for MFA is if they log in to Outlook Web from home or out of the office. That's the only time they'll get prompted. So just make sure that you, and I really want to develop a course where I can educate people on how to navigate through Office 365 from a basic cybersecurity standpoint. I don't think Microsoft is doing a good job still. I think they're too busy rolling out yet another app. I think, every time I go into Office 365, it seems like there's 10 new apps and programs I didn't know existed. So I think they're putting more effort into that than educating people on how to, well, really the easiest thing would be that every new Office 365 subscription, MFA is mandatory. Like you can't opt out of it, but they'll never do that. So security is not convenience. Everyone knows that, but we've got to have secure environments. And then in SCD news, our efforts with the DFARS and CMMC programs. So if you're a new viewer of the show, you may or may not know that we are experts in this area. It's something that we get commonly called in to do, pre-assessment work. We are not going to be certified assessors, full certified assessors, so we're going to be your advocate. And we're a company that you would pull in to do a pre-assessment. So we would come in before the official auditors and come in and tell you how you're doing. To do that, we have partnered with a company called Comply Up. What happens is if you contact us for a DFARS or a CMMC audit, we include a subscription for the year on the Comply Up platform. So at the end of the assessment, you would have access to the Comply Up software in order to see where you are and track for the rest of the year where you're going. So we welcome folks that have signed up and are getting benefit to this. I think you're seeing a lot of benefit from that program. We thank Comply Up for your partnership in helping us just basically get more CMMC pre-audits and more DFARS audits completed, and offering a standard platform that's web-based and secure for everyone to interact with. So it includes all the policies, all the standards. It's amazing. If you have any interest in that, let us know. That's all we have for today. I appreciate your time. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.